question I've been asking myself today is, where do we go from here? And what I mean by that is, if you listen to yesterday's show at all, you could probably understand that I was pretty frustrated and pretty upset and a little, pretty distraught about everything that's going on. And most of the reason why that is, well, two reasons. And I posted about this on Facebook today. You can send me a friend request on Facebook. I talk about this. Two reasons why that is. One, the first reason is I'm just tired of the anger. Just when you think things cannot get any crazier, things cannot get any more angry, they do. And the anger in that room at that press conference yesterday with Trump, and the anger we saw in Charlottesville between two very radical, nasty groups, it's disgusting. It's not what this country is all about. And yet I see this all the time. Not just at that press conference. I see it on social media every day. I see it in mainstream media, including Fox News, every day. Or hear it on radio every day, and it's just exhausting. It's exhausting, the anger. Because, for one, we live in the most blessed country in the world still, in the history of the world, and we're all angry, which is dumb. But it's just, I'm not an angry person. And I just don't want to go around being angry all the time. Mostly at things that I have no control over, or things that really don't affect me personally. And yet that's what we are. The other reason why I'm frustrated is nobody's honest anymore. We're not honest. We're not having honest conversations anymore about any of this stuff. What happened at that press conference yesterday, there was no honest conversation going on there. It was one side attacking the other back and forth. The media attacking Trump, Trump attacking the media. That was it. There wasn't an honest conversation. We're not honest. If the media was honest, they would admit that Trump was right in some of what he said. But they can't. They cannot come to admit that themselves. And it's absurd. So we're going to get into what's next. What do we do? This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee, the voice of reason. In a world that is beyond reason, we are on till 10 p.m. tonight, right here live on News Radio 102.5 WFLA. You can listen to the podcast anywhere podcasts are available as well. I'd encourage you, if you missed yesterday's show, to listen to that show as well, because we talk about just how radicals are ripping this country apart. I talked about how the anger is just getting annoying, how we have become so obsessed with just hitting the other side. This is a theme in the show for the past few months, but I hate to keep harping on it, but you have to, because we can't seem to move past that. So I would encourage you to listen to yesterday's podcast. But you also send me a friend request on Facebook. Search Michael Yaffee. You can follow me on Twitter at Beyond Reason R. You can download the Beyond Reason Radio app. We're also on Facebook Live as well, like the Beyond Reason Radio Facebook page. And, of course, tonight we have Mr. Tom Benson producing as well. And how are you, Tom?
Hey, I'm doing fine. I think the ostrich has the right idea.
What, put your head in the sand?
Yes, put your hand in the sand and let the world go by.
You know, I wonder, I keep thinking we've already come to that point where a lot of people in this country are going to start doing that. They're just going to start turning it off. Mm-hmm. I really think we're close to that, if not already there after this week. And this is just from people I've talked to who are just, they can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
They just turned it off. I was talking to a family member today, and she said, I just can't take it. I couldn't listen today. I turned it over to the music station and stupid news because I couldn't take it.
Yeah.
And I don't blame her. I don't blame the people that are just, it's so vicious and nasty and full of lies, and it's disgusting.
And they just egg each other on, both sides.
Exactly. I mean, that press conference yesterday, I don't agree. In the next hour, I'm going to talk about one point that Trump made that I really disagree with. But if I were part of the press yesterday, I would not have treated him like they did. They would ask him questions. He would try to answer the questions, and they would interrupt each other, and they were yelling at each other, and there were jeers. And it was just, he's still the president of the United States. I know so many people don't want to come to admit that to themselves, but he is. And you're still a journalist. Your job is to ask questions. But they wouldn't even let him answer the questions.
They form their questions in the form of a commentary.
Yeah, there's that too, but it was that definitely happens.
Yeah.
They're grandstanding, but it was worse than that. I mean, part of me is like upset at Trump the way he reacted, but part of me understands why, because he's under assault at any press conference he takes. And he deserves a lot of criticism, but dear God, what about civility? What about civility? And I can't believe how many people I'm seeing today who are, condoning the violence by this Antifa group because they were fighting Nazis, so it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
No.
They weren't fighting Nazis in Berkeley.
Oh, no.
They were breaking windows and smashing.
I know. One of my Facebook friends said, oh, well, they're just counter-protesters, everything they've done. No. They've started a lot of protests. I think they were also at Trump's inauguration address destroying stuff. I mean, they're not a good group. But the fact is, I hate neo-Nazis. I hate white supremacists. But we cannot condone violence. We must condemn the violence. I don't care who it's from. We have to condemn the violence and we have to protect free speech. If we cannot protect the First Amendment and we cannot condemn violence as a society, we are in a lot of trouble. And we are spiraling towards a very, very dangerous route in this country. And yet I'm seeing it. They were being compared to World War II veterans. Are you insane? No. World War II fought an actual army that was trying to take over the world. They weren't just fighting against speech they disagreed with. This is insane. And that's what I'm talking about, where we're not honest. We're not having an honest conversation about this anymore. If they were honest, they would admit that. They would say, I don't like the violence here at all. The violence has got to stop. And that's where I want to get to start off in this show. Because we have to come to a point in this country where we can stop the hate and forgive each other. Forgive each other. Forgive for past wrongs. Forgive for disagreements. And learn to tolerate one another. I'm not saying you have to agree with the views of neo-Nazis, but dear God, we can't get caught up in the hate, because when you get caught up in the violence and the hate of those groups, you are just giving more credence to those groups. The alt-right basically won this week, because now they're getting a bunch of attention that they don't deserve and they shouldn't get. But they're getting all of this attention because we've decided that we're going to start violence against them. They want that. They want the violence. Trust me, it does nothing but help their cause. So I found what's getting lost in all of this is that girl who was killed in Charlottesville, run over by one of these nasty, evil white supremacist people with this car. This girl, from all accounts, was a great person, had nothing to do with either of these radical groups. She was protesting against the neo-Nazis, but she was not part of Antifa. She was not violent. And she was killed for merely standing up for what she believed in.
There are a number of people there in Charlottesville who were demonstrating against both sides being there. They wanted them out of town.
Oh, that's true, too. Now, I think she was specifically against the neo-Nazis, but you're right. A lot of people didn't like, Because I heard there was actually a great piece that talked about how they're sick of the proxy war. They feel like this is a proxy war. They're using the city for the proxy war against these two radical groups. And we're letting these two radicals that don't represent the vast majority of the country rip us apart and rip our cities apart. And the vast majority of people are like, I don't want either of these people here. Get out. And I understand that. And this poor girl was killed. But I want you to listen to what her father said about all this. Mark Heyer, he actually lives in Brevard County. He, despite everything that was that's happened, despite the fact that his daughter was viciously murdered, listen to what he said. He was interviewed last Sunday, right after it happened. Listen to what he said about it. We could learn so much from him. Here it is.
My daughter was a strong woman that had passionate opinions about the equality of everyone, and she tried to stand up for that. And with her, it wasn't lip service. It was real. It was something that she wanted to share with everyone, and my thoughts about all of this stuff is that people need to stop hating, and they need to forgive each other, and I include myself in that, in forgiving the guy that did this. Okay? He don't know no better. I just think of what the Lord said on the cross. Lord, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. My daughter's life, I'm proud of her. Proud of her for standing up. She had more courage than I did. She had a stubborn backbone that if she thought she was right, she would stand there and defy you. But if I understand her, she wanted to do it peacefully. And, with a fierceness of heart, that comes with her conviction, and I hope all of this stuff that's come out isn't twisted into something negative, but there comes a positive change in people's hearts, in their thinking, in their understanding of their neighbor. We just need to forgive each other.
His daughter was viciously murdered for protesting peacefully. And what does he say? He says we need to stop the hate and forgive each other. My heart breaks for this guy, but what an amazing man he is. And if that is her father, she must have been an amazing person too. Because he's right. Even in the face of some of the worst evil he's ever seen, he talks about how Jesus forgave, and we should forgive as well. That is powerful. It's so powerful. That kind of attitude is more powerful than anything that Antifa or these stupid alt-right groups can throw at it. And it's amazing. We need to learn from him. Now, he also spoke, her funeral was today, and some of these Antifa nasty people crashed the funeral today, by the way, which is disgusting. They brought baseball bats and everything. It's disgusting. And he continued on this theme when he spoke at the funeral. This is what he said today.
We just need to stop all this stuff and just forgive each other. I think that's what the Lord would want us to do, is to stop, just love one another. I came here today and I was overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed at the rainbow of colors in this room. That's how Heather was. It didn't matter who you were or where you were from. If she loved you, that was it. You were stuck. So for that, I'm truly proud of my daughter.
And he should be. What an amazing, a little bit of a bright light in all this darkness, that family and what he said, because he's right. We are so consumed with hate in this country. We must stop and forgive each other. That is what can solve these problems. And unfortunately, I don't see that happening in most of what's going on, unfortunately. If you have any comments on this, you can call 407-916-5400, or you can text to 23680. We're going to talk more about this. We also have my voice of reason of the day. Hopefully later in the show. I didn't get to it yesterday, but I do want to get to stories that made Yaffee laughy, because I think we could use a little bit of lighter stuff today as well. And we'll get to a lot more stuff. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
If you heart Beyond Reason Radio, listen to the Beyond Reason Radio podcast on iHeartRadio. Just download the iHeartRadio app and search Beyond Reason Radio. The voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason is back now.
Yes, welcome back to the show, everyone. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We are on till 10 p.m. tonight. We have Mr. Tom Benson producing as well, and we were talking about where we go from here. What should we? Because I think there's a bunch of people in my audience who are just these regular everyday people that they just want to move past the chaos. They just want to move past the nonsense. They just want to move past the anger and the hatred. They want to be informed. They want to stand up for what they believe in, but this has gotten crazy. And they would just like to see some reasonable takes on this. And, you know, a lot of people probably just want me to get on the air and talk about how the left, defend Trump, the left's fault, and the left bear a lot of responsibility with what's going on right now. But we have to move past this. We have to learn to forgive each other. We have to get past the anger so we can get back. If we can get past some of the anger, some of the viciousness, then we can actually have legitimate debates, about policy and about things we legitimately disagree on in the future of our country economically or socially. There are legitimate debates we need to have, but we have gotten so sucked up into all this madness that it's just gotten crazy. So I played the audio from Mark Heyer, who's the father of the girl that was killed in Charlottesville. And he talked about forgiveness. And this kind of reminded me a couple years ago. I think it's been a couple years now, right? When Dylan Roof shot up that church, that black church, and killed a lot of people.
Yeah, in Charleston.
Mm-hmm. It's probably been like, what, 1 or 2 years, I guess?
Time marches on. It's probably been a good 2 years.
Yeah. And just, this was another example. So afterwards, he was brought out, and some of the family members spoke to him. And here's the audio of one family member whose, who I believe, sister or mother was killed. A family member was killed by Dylan Roof. And what she says here is just, it's incredible. And we need to learn from it. And I wanted to play it again. Here it is.
I would never talk to her ever again. I would never be able to hold her again. But I forgive you. And have mercy on your soul. You hurt me. You hurt a lot of people. But God forgive you. And I forgive you.
And this is when a lot of the Confederate statue stuff and everything started, was after the Dylan Roof thing, because he had that manifesto where he had Confederate flags and stuff. And listen to her. After he did something so vicious, she says, "I forgive you." That is powerful. That is the best way to defeat these Nazis or these haters or this anger out there, is with forgiveness like that. Martin Luther King understood that. We need to understand that as well. Or we will head down a very, very dangerous road in this country that most people do not want to head down. Most people just want to live their lives, take care of their families, do well, be successful. They don't want to deal with all this nonsense, but this is how we do it. Let's take a call here real quick before we take a break. Let's go to Dale in Orlando. Dale, how are you today?
I'm doing fine. I'm a little outraged with the media here. You know, the double standard is so bad. You know, Obama had Louis Farrakhan in the White House, and Louis Farrakhan is a hater of whites. He called all white people blue-eyed devils. Where's the outrage there? I mean,
there is definitely a double standard.
I go to work and I run a business. I hire people. I take care of my family, and I just try to live a normal life, hopefully make it to retirement. But, you know, you say that, you know, we're going to go down this awful road. We're already on the awful road.
Yeah.
And the sad thing about it is it's never going to be fixed. Never. Until somehow our society tricks the society to get another Democrat in there, and then they will treat that president better, and they won't give him tough questions. We are going down a road that we're already on, and it's never going to be fixed. I mean, you know, why aren't these people being arrested for damaging federal property? It's a public you know.
Well, one of them actually was. In North Carolina, they actually did arrest her.
Yeah, but
you're right.
It's a sad deal. I mean, here Donald Trump said yesterday some of the most important infrastructure. He talked about going into inner cities and creating jobs. When was the last time you heard a president talk about going into inner cities and improving those people's lives?
You're right.
And the media, all they wanted to do was to hammer away on him. And
that's true. The anger was vicious, but he fed right into it.
Yep. The best thing Donald Trump could do is in 4 years, the national debt is at $20 trillion or less. And what are they going to say then?
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt that they're going to keep doing this.
Oh, I mean, they've got the playbook. They've got the playbook.
But we have to convince ordinary Americans to get on our side with this stuff. How do we do that?
Just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, for the next, hour and a half, you're going to be doing it, and hopefully people will tune in. I mean, I listen all the time during the day. At night, I inform myself. I teach my children what the difference between right and wrong, and to be able to listen to people's opposing opinions, and that's all you can do.
Yeah, that's right. Now, would you be able...
Go ahead.
You're right. You're so right on what the other side is doing, what the media is doing to Trump and all this stuff. Would you be able to forgive them for what they've done?
Most definitely. All they need to do is start reporting about the job numbers, start reporting about positive things that people can be doing to improve their life. You know, just drive down here on I-4 by 408, and they've got the project houses there. You know, I don't mind my tax dollars paying for that, but go down there and look. Every one of them's got Dish Network on their house. I don't have Dish Network, not that I can't afford it, but because I'm taking that money and putting it into a 401k or for my children's future or for my future. But they all have free Dish Network.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's a little side point, but it's it's just...
Well, you're right on that. We are so distracted by all this nonsense that there are real issues out there that we're not even talking about. And I actually have some stories I want to get to that are being completely ignored now because of stuff that isn't real. Confederate statues doesn't affect our everyday lives. Most people don't care.
And the sad thing about it is they're going to drag this healthcare thing out because it distracts us even more. They could easily fix this problem. You know, you go on the internet, you fill out an application, and you get health insurance. You can pay $150, $200, $300 a month. But people don't want to do that because they want to have 2 or 3 cell phones. They want to have internet and cable. They got to have the best of the best. And they're not looking for health care. They don't, you know what I'm saying? They don't want to come out of the pocketbook for that. They want somebody else to pay it, like me. If I were to tell you what I pay every April, you drop your drawer.
I believe it. I believe it.
It's horrible. It's horrible. My payroll taxes, I talked to my accountant, my payroll taxes have doubled.
Wow. Dale,
people don't know this, like Yaffee.
Dale, I appreciate your call. Thank you so much. Brings up some good points. Especially in terms of healthcare. I have a story here. You know, they're continuing those payments for Obamacare. That got kind of thrown under the rug, but you know how Trump was threatening to not pay those payments? He caved in. He's going to pay them. So I mean, we still have Obamacare. Isn't that unbelievable to think about? We have control of the House and the Senate and the presidency, and somehow we still have Obamacare? And now we're fighting over statues while healthcare premiums continue to rise and people lose coverage, people I talk to. It's just crazy stuff. All right, in the next segment, I'm going to get to my voice of reason of the day on this and much more. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
It would be beyond reason not to listen to Yaffee on your TuneIn Radio app. Download the app today and search Beyond Reason Radio. This is Orlando's Smart Talk Radio. Beyond Reason Radio continues now.
Yes, welcome back to the show, everyone. So it's been sort of a theme lately that I do the voice of reason of the day. Seems like a popular thing. And I try to do one every hour. And today's has to do with the topic we're talking about, how we are constantly being divided in this country. And it's over stuff that really doesn't even affect us every day. So while the real issues are being ignored, we are being divided by media on both sides, frankly, by hate, by radical groups. And, you know, Tom Benson and I talked at the top of the hour. I think people are going to start tuning out.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are. And what does that solve? I mean, I guess it gets rid of some of the violence. I don't know. But it's bad. So I wanted to play here because I think he got it exactly right this morning. Glenn Beck, who plays on this station 9 to noon every day. His opening monologue today, and a lot of it actually he said on Twitter last night. So he did a tweet storm last night and said a lot of the same things in his opening monologue. I wanted to play part of it here and get your reaction because I think I'm where he's at on this. And we have to solve this problem of hate before we can move forward. And I'm just tired of the anger. And I'm still going to get calls that say, well, the left is bad and the left's doing this in the media and I hate them and I hate them and I hate them. And I'm saying, okay, that's fine. Well, what does that solve? What do we stand for? Glenn Beck made that point this morning. So this is my voice of reason of the day for this hour. Glenn Beck, here it is.
Most Americans don't want anything to do with the Nazis or the anarchists and the communists. Nothing. They have nothing in common. They despise them both. Most Americans, and yes, that includes the left. And left, if you happen to be listening, that includes the right. We want nothing to do with it. They're both crazy, dangerous, and racist. Period. And here's what's happening. The media, because they hate Donald Trump so much, and the right media, because they hate the media so much, are giving America a false choice. you don't condemn Donald Trump, really. Not even the Nazis. You don't condemn Donald Trump. You are choosing the side of the Nazis. And if you don't defend on the right, if you don't defend Donald Trump, then you're a communist anarchist that might as well be burning down Berkeley. Neither of those are true. That's not our choice. You're with the black nationalist or the white nationalist? I'm not with either of them.
Yeah, I have to. Is there more? Oh.
No, that was it.
I was just making sure he gave me a look. I thought that was it. I have to agree with him. He continued on his Twitter storm. He said, 80% of Americans haven't seen a wage increase. They're in failing schools, can't afford college or health care. And what are you clowns doing? Trying to get reelected by tearing down, dividing, and literally spreading lies about 50% of America. Each lie about the other. It is why I reject both parties and almost all media, even some of my own. I will remove myself before I play this game one more day. Does anyone in the media, both sides, see what you are doing? Play this out. How does it end? Civil war, race riots. We are all humans. Maybe 20% of the U.S. is certifiable effing nuts at this point. I don't know, but I do know most of us are not. I want peace. This is back on his tweet storm. I have to agree with him. He continues on. I want all children to have health care, food, and good education. I want our troops to come home. I want justice for the wrong. I want an end of racism, freedom for those enslaved today, an end of oppression, government, banking, and corporate corruption. I want our real and complete history taught. Tons of good, lots of really bad. We need the bitter and we need the sweet. I want basic fairness. I want bad cops to go to jail and good cops to know we support them. I want us to mind our own business at home. I want compassion on the border as well as justice and law and order. I want my taxes to actually help people in need. I want you to live as you want to live and love what you want to love, to worship God and defend your right to not believe in God. I want to live in peace, to love my neighbor no matter who they voted for. I want my children to have more opportunities to search, learn, work, succeed, and yes, fail. We all have a right to our bodies. I want to help the mother in trouble and the baby. I want us to stop this madness and ask ourselves, when did 50% of us, including our family and dear friends, go crazy? Or perhaps they haven't. Maybe they're just being squeezed from all sides and no one is listening or representing them. From D.C. to media to us. We have lost our way. People are afraid of many things, but much of it we have in common. But we are still amazing people. The power-hungry need you to be angry so you will freely give them our most precious commodity, our souls, decency, and hope. Don't do it. You don't have to choose Trump or Hillary as the election is over, Nazis or Antifa, nukes or weakness, black or white. But you do have to choose hate or love, peace or war, life or death, freedom or slavery. We are all choosing right now. We need to choose a path of dangerous unselfishness. Stop trying to win. Start trying to understand and love. And, oh man, he continues on for a while. Okay. And we need to, he says, and don't tell me love doesn't work. It did for Lincoln, Gandhi, and Jesus. It's a bigger win, not just a political win. I want more, don't you? If options are black supremacists, Antifa on the left, or KKK Nazis on the right, then I'm in the middle as it is the furthest from both. If your party, friends, media is making any excuses or ignoring facts about either side, which a lot of people are, frankly, especially the media, it amazed me yesterday that a lot of those reporters, it's like they had no idea Antifa existed, and I guarantee you they didn't know it existed. How irresponsible. Google it. There's plenty of evidence that they were out there causing violence too. It's irresponsible to say and dishonest to say that Antifa and the radical left groups had no part in that violence. So it's changed now, of course. This is me talking, by the way. This isn't Beck anymore. It's changed now, of course, to where now they're admitting Antifa did the violence, but now the violence is okay. Really? This is craziness. But then in the same case, Donald Trump comes out yesterday, oh, there were some very fine people protesting the statue. No. That rally was organized and attended by really bad people on the alt-right. And later in the show, I'm going to play what they were chanting and what they were saying. And speakers like Richard Spencer, the other people were there. It's sick. We shouldn't defend them at all. But that doesn't mean we should also go and beat them up. Is this such an unreasonable point of view? Is this such an unreasonable point of view that I can't sit here and say, yes, that rally was awful, but they have a right to do it? That used to be a common thing. And now we're saying, well, we have to go start wars in the street against them. Ugh, it's disgusting where this is going. And we're all being dragged into it. 407-916-5400, text to 23680. I have more to say about this and a bunch of other stuff. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
Listen to the latest episodes of Beyond Reason. Download the podcast at Spreaker.com. The conscience in your ear telling you the difference between right and wrong. Yaffee is back on the air.
So, Mr. Tom Benson.
Yes, sir.
I have some good news. You want some good news?
Say what?
I think does that even exist anymore? I think we need some good news, don't you think?
Is it from this country or another country?
No, believe it or not, it's from this country.
Good. All right.
The thing is, actually, it's kind of... There's one good thing about all the craziness around Trump and all this stuff, the chaos, is that because they're also distracted by that stuff, the economy is humming along doing well because they don't have to worry about what Washington is going to do to them. You know what I mean? All the gridlock in Congress and all this stuff going on with Trump and all this debate over all this other stuff. It helps. It actually, in some ways, helps the economy move along because they don't have to worry about all that stuff. They can actually focus on creating jobs and doing better in their business and all that and hiring. And Bloomberg actually came out with this. Bloomberg said this: the Trump factor also contains a rational component. For investors, the paralysis in Washington is roughly neutral because actual policy out of Washington could go either way. Up to a point, no news is good news. Meanwhile, the Trump presidency increases the possibility of lower corporate income taxes, and Trump's officials have begun to roll back economic regulation where they can. It's still unclear what this assault on regulation will amount to or how far the changes will be smart policy, but compared with the status quo, it's likely to be good for points. Bloomberg, the editorial page, actually admitted that.
Wow.
That Trump, one of that part of the economic growth, especially in the stock market, is probably because of Trump.
Let's
believe
hope
it or not.
Let's hope it continues and doesn't get upset by the events this week.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because I have an editorial from the Investors Business Daily here, and
you can afford that.
Their editorials are free.
Oh, okay.
Thank God. They're great. The other stuff, you're right, is not. I can't afford anything. I get really mad when I go to like the Washington Post or the Wall Street Journal and they want me to pay to read an article.
Yeah.
It is 2017.
Yeah.
I want to read something online for free. I should be able to read it for free. I'm like, no, I'm not paying. So it's like, Wall Street Journal, you want me to pay to read your editorial? I'm just going to go to Investors Business Daily then and read theirs for free. I know I'm never going to win that argument, but it's just one of those things. Like, I don't want to pay. But they have an editorial here, and it says, in the past week or so, we've had a nuclear showdown with North Korea, a trade spat with China, investigation of the president's campaign for possible collusion with the Russians, a riot in Charlottesville that revealed a widening political split among Americans, and growing left-wing rage directed at a sitting American president. So why isn't the economy falling apart? It says, more to the point, rather than treading water or weakening, the economy actually seems to be improving. It's amazing. It shows how most of Americans are not involved in all this crap.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
That gets the big publicity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just trying to, get back to work. It says more to the. It says we know the stock market is fickle, and today's rally can be tomorrow's rout, but it's a fact that the S&P 500 has risen more than 10% this year, enriching millions of Americans' 401ks, IRAs, and individual investment accounts. The total market value has grown by more than $4 trillion since the start of the year. What's fueling the rise? It's not just a bubble, but earnings are jumping. S&P 500 earnings jumped 11% in the second quarter, following 16% growth in the first quarter. And in the second quarter, more than half the companies on the index exceeded earnings forecasts. This is why the stock market is melting up, to use a favorite phrase from Wall Street economic and investor advisor Ed Yardeni says. I don't know who that is. Must be smart, I guess.
Yes. Muffy and I are having dinner this evening.
With Ed Yardeni. Yes. He's probably a really nice guy. I shouldn't make fun of him. It says the stock market isn't the whole story. A just released report shows 4.3% year-over-year jump in retail sales for July. So far this year, retail sales are up 4.6% on average, compared to a rise of just 2.7% for Obama's last year in office.
Wow.
Yeah. Meanwhile, a piece of USA Today highlights how the labor participation rate of Americans of prime working age is at its highest since 2010, while unemployment is at 4.3%, tying its lowest level since 2001. In short, more Americans are going back to work, more than 1 million since January. Retail sales are growing again. The stock market is rising. Inflation and interest rates remain low, and the overall economy is showing clear signs of stronger growth. Whether you like it or not, Trump deserves a great deal of credit for changing the tenor and tone of the economy. Yeah, and that's true. Whether you like it or... Of all the things you can hate about Trump, he's a pro-business president. There's no doubt about that. He is a pro-business president. And that helps the economy.
And we just wish he would continue to accentuate the positive and ignore the other stuff.
He can't. His ego will not let him. It says, in just over 6 months, Trump has approved new energy projects and pipelines, taken the U.S. out of the economy-killing Paris Climate Accords, started a rigorous government regulatory reform that will yield billions of dollars in savings, and has already cut 16 rules for every new one put in place / regulations for manufacturers, begun to restock the federal judiciary with judges who believe in free markets and individual liberty, and pushed a reluctant Congress to live up to its promises to repeal and replace Obamacare and reform taxes. Now, the last two ones, we have a long way to go on those. And we really need to get those done if we want this economy to stay strong. But optimism's up, they say. It's interesting, despite all this. Some good news for you. Whether you like it or not, the economy seems to get better. Hopefully it will continue that way. All right, the first hour is done. In the second hour, this is where I'll get all the hate. Because I have to criticize Trump in one thing. He needs to call out the alt-right. He's got to stop kind of defending them. Because it's not good for the conservative movement. So we'll talk about that and much more. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
I look inside of myself. Will I find some kind of conviction?
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Yes, you have one more hour to go. You thought it was over. No, one more hour. I know you all are waiting with bated breath to see what I have to say next. Or maybe not. I don't know. We'll we'll see. I wanted to read something here from Bill O'Reilly that I just thought of. He had a piece in The Hill today. talked a lot about how the media is after Trump, against Trump, which they are. I mean, that display yesterday, I'm sorry, was disgusting by the media. And I'm about to criticize something Trump said that needs to be criticized, but the media, the press yesterday needs to be criticized. Because we need civility. We need civility back in this country. We desperately need it. And I saw no civility. Very little civility yesterday. Their hatred for Trump has overtaken anything, everything. I understand you don't like the guy. Fine. Ask him a question. Let him answer the question. Report on what he said. That's your job. If you don't like what he said, you write an editorial, an op-ed or whatever against what he said. You get on one of these shows and you say what you didn't like about what he said. But you don't go to a press conference and don't let him speak and start grandstanding and yelling. It's no. It's not how it works. He says, Bill O'Reilly said this. He says, in America, there is indeed a civil war underway. And the president, along with his supporters, will lose that war unless they fight it smarter. Anytime Nazis are involved, you condemn them and walk away. That's all. It's kind of what Bud was saying this morning on the morning show. Pretty much the same thing. There will be a time to expose the hard left fanatics down the road. It's all about picking your spots. It's all about an effective wartime strategy. This has been the main criticism of Trump. What he did yesterday, that he didn't pick his battles well enough, that he should have just that it was a distraction, that he already made his statements. He should have just came out, moved on, instead of feeding into the media frenzy. And there's some truth to that. Now, it doesn't matter what he does, though, because the media is going to hate him, and that's kind of the response. Well, they love what Trump did. Ann Coulter, for instance, was tweeting during it. She loved what Trump did. This is our leader who's back. And she loves it, and a lot of people love it because they just like the fighting back. They just like the fighting back. And, I get it. I understand it. And a lot of what Trump said, and I mentioned this on yesterday's show. By the way, I don't think I introduced myself this
Who
hour.
are you? Who is this person that's talking?
Do I have to introduce myself anymore, really? And then, no, you all know who I am. You all know. This is Beyond Reason Radio. Yes. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. Yes. The voice of reason, the voice of truth, the voice of clarity, and all of the noise. And, of course, we have Mr. Tom Benson. That was the other voice coming out of the control room.
How do?
You're just ready to get into it. You're ready to talk.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I haven't really got your take on Trump's thing yesterday.
Oh, I'm tired of it all.
I sense that by so many people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that you hate Trump or anything. It's not like you disagree with a lot of what Trump said. You're just kind of tired of the chaos.
You know, it used to be, not too long ago, you read an article somewhere in a paper, and you take it at face value. Now I find myself questioning everything I read. What's this story really about? Can this be believed?
Wow. That's sad.
Yeah.
That's kind of depressing.
Yeah.
But it's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, especially when you see the journalists out there grandstanding in the press conference like that. I mean,
sure. There was a report last week that Jim Acosta at CNN, who's one of the prime foes of the president, is angling for a talk show on CNN.
There's no
and
doubt
that's why
about
he's auditioning.
Yes, of course he is. Of course he is. We all know that. We all knew that was coming. But that's fine. Then don't pretend to be an unbiased reporter.
Right.
Then don't don't pretend to be that thing.
He shouldn't be there. He's already a commentator.
That is not why you're at a White House press conference. That's not why you're there.
And why doesn't the White House Correspondents Press Association police their members?
Yeah, they're going to have to, but then they'll just say Trump's trying to silence speech or something, which is just, the whole thing is just ridiculous. But I defended a lot of what Trump said because he was right in a lot of what he said. But I did have a problem with one thing he said. There was one glaring example, and this is where a lot of the criticism is actually coming from today, on both sides, and he really deserves the criticism here. Because what he said here is just not true. It's just not true. You know, there's a lot of talk about the Vice News did a documentary of everything that happened in Charlottesville. I watched a lot of it today. Mm-hmm. They talked to a lot of these people that were at the rally, the neo-Nazis, the white supremacists, the alt-right and everything, and the things they were saying were just beyond reason. You can't believe people like that still exist in this country. So this rally was not good. That doesn't mean Antifa should have shown up and did what they did. That wasn't good either. Violence is not good. We should condemn all violence. I don't know why the left can't seem to understand that today. Because Antifa was fighting neo-Nazis doesn't mean what they did was right. I'm sorry, we must condemn it. But we also need to condemn the rally in the first place, what it stood for. And Trump, because he's so defensive, kind of wishy-washy on that, frankly. And I didn't like it. Here's the part of Trump yesterday in the press conference where he was asked, he talked about it. In this part, I don't see any evidence of this. This is what he said.
And you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
You had some very fine people there. No. Let's not try to minimize, which is what he was doing. Yeah, there were some bad people, but there was also some good people there. No. Let's not try to minimize what that rally was all about, okay? Doesn't mean what Antifa did. Antifa was bad too, but let's not try to minimize. And this is Trump kind of being defensive of the alt-right, because a lot of the alt-right people support him. It seems like pandering, but I think it's an ego thing. And the people that were out there protesting, and there's a lot of people, I'm one who doesn't want to get rid of these statues. I don't like the idea of getting rid of these Confederate statues. But I would not have gone to that rally, because that was not a Tea Party conservative type rally, okay? These were very bad people. In fact, here's the audio. Here's the audio here of it should say protest in the audio cut. Play. This is what they were chanting the night before when they were all walking with the tiki torches. Lots of them, dozens of them, probably hundreds of them, I guess. Listen to what they were all chanting.
You will not replace us. You will not replace us. You will not replace us. You will not. Blood and soil. Blood and soil. Blood and soil.
So the first thing was Jews will not replace us. That's what they were chanting. Jews will not replace us. The second thing, blood and soil. Blood and soil. This is as racist as you can possibly get. That's what the rally was all about. Now, they have a right to do it, but let's not pretend it was something else, okay? This is a bunch of racist nationalists, alt-right people that need to be condemned. And we can't qualify it with, oh, well, some of them are very fine people. No. I'm sorry. It's just not true. Tom Benson, you turned on the mic. You came up to look like you had something to say.
I forget what it was.
You were a little taken aback, I think, by that audio.
Yeah. I know what it was. These guys are basically losers.
Oh, yeah, they are.
Who have miserable lives,
yep,
and they want to make everybody else's life miserable. Yep. That's it.
And what's funny, too, is a lot of them, they were the Vice thing, they were interviewing one of the guys, and he thought his whole commentary was Trump's not racist enough because his son-in-law's a Jew, Jared Kushner.
Oh, please.
And how could he let her be with him? It's awful. What this rally was about was awful. The worst of America. So let's not go, oh, well, some of them were very fine people. No. I'm sorry.
Well, there's a little bit. I know the guy who allegedly drove the car is of age. However, his mother had no idea where he was going and what he was doing.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of the biggest problems in society anymore is parental control or parental awareness, because the parents themselves are screwed up.
That's so true. That's so true. Although there was a story out there of parents, there were some parents who found out that their kid went to the rally and denounced him. Found out.
Well, I also read an article today that a lot of these demonstrators are worried now that their employer is going to find out they were there and they're going to get fired. Well, it's a free country, but there are
cry me a river.
There are consequences for your actions.
Cry me a river. Yeah, there was a video that went viral today of one of the Nazi guys out there. He was crying because he was found out. He's like, I'm so scared. I'm like, cry me a river. Okay. You're a disgusting person. All right, let's take a call here real quick. Let's go to Eddie in Claremont. Eddie, what's your take on this?
Hey, I'm used to talking to you in the morning, but it's nice to hear you in the afternoon, evening, I should say.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
I'm a black United States Marine.
Okay?
Oh,
great. Awesome. Thank you for your service.
Guys to sit there and to protest as much as they want to.
Yeah.
I don't really care.
Right.
My son, I have a Confederate flag my son gave me years ago. That doesn't bother me. The problem is the alt-right, as you call them, and the neo-Nazis are all from the Democrat Party, all socialists. They all hate Jews.
Yeah.
The Democrat Party hates Jews. They're all from one stinking nasty pot. And we need to do something. We need to call them out on it. Now, I think Donald Trump misspoke because he didn't listen to the speeches.
Well, I think,
which is why,
and I think he's just defensive. I think he has to fight back. You know what I mean?
You don't have to. Well, the Marine Corps we have a saying: "Is this the hill you want to die on?" I mean, you don't have to fight every battle.
Yeah.
You can make a lateral move and go around this hill. You don't have to sit there and take every battle on. And I think Donald Trump is doing that to his detriment.
And I don't think he's a racist. I played on the show yesterday. On my show yesterday, I played audio from him in 2000 where he totally denounced David Duke, hated that he was going in the Reform Party. And he's done that his whole career.
But David Duke is an idiot, though. I mean,
he is.
He's dumb. He's no more Republican than I can fly, and I don't have any wings to fly. I mean, they keep bringing up David Duke. What about the senator from Virginia? I mean, let's talk about the Klan. That's a real Democrat, the oldest, I think, living senator.
Historically, yeah. And still now there are a lot of KKK that still go with the Democrat Party. I remember I played audio during the campaign where some KKK leader or whatever said he was voting for Hillary. So, I mean, to say they're all Republicans. But I think it doesn't help, though, when Trump isn't going to call them out like he should.
Because I don't think Donald Trump, I won't say know what he's doing. I just think he just takes everybody as a face value as they're nice people. Not everybody's nice people. And besides, the Nazis had a permit to be there to protest. The others didn't. Why didn't the police get brought up on charges for standing down?
Well, yeah, the police were outrageous. The fact is, though, one of the counter-protest groups I did read today did have a permit in another location, and both of these groups kind of went off location and started fighting each other. But it's still, they have a right to do it, kind of like what you started out the call.
Yeah, they do have a right, but they don't have a right to this violence. And
exactly.
For the past 8 years, we allowed Black Lives Matter to do whatever they wanted to do without any consequences at all.
Yeah, police are told to stand down with the riots in Baltimore. They're told to stand down on all this stuff. They were told to stand down when they were ripping down the Confederate statues. That is a very dangerous trend.
Okay, so what's next? Well, what about the monument of Dr. King in Washington, D.C.? Do we need to take that down also because he is a Republican? I mean, let's take that. I mean, how far?
Yeah, there was a meme. There was a meme going around today that said Martin Luther King was against gay marriage. Do we need to take down his statue?
Possibly.
I
mean, where's the end? I mean, if we keep pretending like the past never happened, we will repeat it.
Yeah.
You cannot think that slavery didn't happen in this country, but it did. I thank God my ancestors were slaves. I'm in the best country in the world. I can go from state to state without having to show my ID, without anybody bothering with me.
And you said you're black, right?
Absolutely. Ask Bud. I got pictures of me and Bud together.
Oh, nice. I hope you can stay tuned for the rest of the show, because we're going to get into a little, for the rest of the hour, because we're going to get into a little bit of race relation stuff and how to move past this. I'm going to play some audio from Morgan Freeman, who's talked about this in the past, and I thought he made some good points. But I want to ask you, what do you think would solve a lot of the problems?
Get rid of Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, and all of those sycophants who keep this hatred going. That will get rid of race relation. Remember now, we already had our second black president because of
Bill Clinton said he was the first. Yeah, I know.
Right. Okay. So let's get rid of all the hate mongers in America. If blacks would just realize that you can be anything you want in this country, all you have to do is follow the rules. I mean, look how many millionaires that come out of high school every day playing basketball, football, or baseball. I mean, they're instantly millionaires. So don't think that the white man is holding you down. You're grabbing a gun, robbing a bank is what's holding you down when you got a felony on your record. Smoking dope and doing other things, that's what's holding you down. It's not the white people. It's the 6 inches between your ears. We have come off of the reservation, or I should say the plantation. Some people are still there. They're waiting for the crack of the federal government to give that check every first of the month. And that has got to stop. We've got to change that. We need more jobs, which we're having now under Donald Trump. We need more entrepreneurship, which we haven't under Donald Trump. But until blacks realize that they have a chance to be what they want, they're going to sit there. They're going to wait for that paycheck. And unfortunately, you and I are paying for that.
Eddie?
And that's the sad fact.
Eddie, great call. I'm really glad you called. I could talk to you for like 2 hours, I think, on some of this stuff.
I'll see you later. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right, Eddie. that was a good call. Very interesting. Totally different perspective than what you hear a lot. And when I play Morgan Freeman cuts later, he's basically saying the same thing that Eddie says there. So we'll get to that next. We have a lot more to get to. I will end the hour with things that made Yaffee laughing. We have the voice of reason of this hour on Trump not calling out the alt-right as much as he should, in my opinion. 407-916-5400, text to 23680. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
You want to listen to Beyond Reason Radio live on your smartphone? Download the Beyond Reason Radio app now. Available in the Google Play or Apple App Store. The place where we talk faith, culture, and politics. Beyond Reason Radio continues.
So this is what I posted on Facebook today. And I actually put it on my Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at Beyond Reason R. You can send me a friend request on Facebook. Search Michael Yaffee. I'll accept it. This is what I posted. A lot of people liked it. A lot of people didn't like it because it was kind of critical of Trump. So anytime you're critical of Trump, that means some people won't like it. This is what I said. My first thought when I saw this press conference yesterday was this country is just ripping itself apart. The anger in the room from the media and Trump was just appalling. We have totally lost the ability to have an honest conversation on these issues. To act like the radical left group Antifa has no responsibility in the violence is just completely dishonest. But Trump constantly trying to find ways to defend the alt-right is also just annoying. These were not Tea Party conservatives who organized this rally. They were radical alt-right racist nationalist groups, and Trump needs to stop blurring the lines between the two. We have to stop letting these radical groups like the alt-right and Antifa rip us apart because the vast majority of Americans don't subscribe to any of this nonsense. And people got on my case because they're like, Trump didn't defend the alt-right. Well, I played that audio earlier, and he talked about, and he was saying, oh, there's very fine people there. No. When you're saying stuff like that, that gives credence to that rally. When you're saying, oh, a lot of the rally is very fine people just protesting the statue, that's just giving credence to a rally that, no, there was all alt-right nationalist thugs. Why he has to feel like he had to do that, I don't know. But because he gets defensive. So I wanted to play my voice of reason of the day on this. Ben Shapiro, who's really big on pointing out the hypocrisy, he's very against the alt-right. Some people say he's a part of the alt-right, which is ridiculous because he talks against them all the time. He's Jewish. So there you go. He can't be alt-right and Jewish, trust me. And he was on The Story with Martha McCallum yesterday on Fox, and he was asked about this. And he defended Trump like I did. Trump said a lot of the right things, but he has to be willing to call out the alt-right more than he does. And Ben Shapiro makes that point as well. Here it is.
I do think that I think it's a little over the top, but I think when you see the President of the United States saying that there are very fine people who are at that protest on Friday night, that torchlight protest where they were shouting about Jews replacing people, and when you see the President of the United States refusing to denounce the alt-right by name, suggesting instead he doesn't know what it is, then a lot of the denunciations of white supremacism, they ring a little bit hollow when you refuse to acknowledge what the alt-right is. There's a reason that both Richard Spencer and David Duke seem particularly happy today. I think that that's the fault of the President. Again, I think the President is not a racist.
Right,
I think the President is not a bigot, but I think that he seems rather comfortable taking support from racists and bigots when he finds it comfortable to do so, and that I find deeply troubling. As far as the Confederate statue stuff, I have sympathy for both sides on this particular argument, but the one thing I think we all should agree on is that leftist mobs ripping down statues in violation of law is obviously a violation of law,
and there's a process
ought to be
underway
stopped
to make arrests with that.
So he goes out there and he says, look, I don't think Trump's a racist, but he needs to denounce the alt-right. He can't just kind of qualify it with, there's some good people out there just protesting a statue. No. And I think he was right on that. But of course, the left takes it too far. You have Michael Moore out today saying, he says most Trump supporters are racist. Not all of them, but they're enabling a racist, so they're just as bad. That's half the country he's basically just calling racist. And then you have Jimmy Kimmel. After the Charlottesville thing, he went ahead and said this.
I am glad you're in a good mood because it's another disturbing Monday in America. We went into the weekend worrying about Kim Jong-un starting a war. We came out of it wondering if our president is cutting eye holes out of his bed sheets.
Yeah, because he's a KKK. Stop it. Stop this. This is what I'm talking about when we can't have an honest conversation anymore. So you have the left that comes out and says, well, he's part of the KKK. He's a racist white supremacist himself. No, that's absurd. Stop it. You're just dividing us more. You're just spreading the hatred even more. He's still the president. Half the country, well, I guess he has approval ratings of like 33%, but I guarantee you more, a lot of millions of people in this country voted for him. Okay? Stop with that. It's just going too far. But we also have to be willing to criticize him when he does, and in him not calling out the alt-right is just another example. We have to have an honest conversation about this, which we can't seem to have. All right, I want to get into how do we move past some of this racism stuff in this country? I found this was kind of going on social media today, and I thought it was very interesting. Kind of goes with what our caller Eddie was talking about. We'll get into it in the next segment. Morgan Freeman made a lot of sense when he was talking about this. I have audio from him on an interview with Don Lemon, and I have audio of him on an interview in 60 Minutes, where he talked about how we move forward in this country based on race. I guess I'm not if I say anything, I apparently has no credibility because I'm white, I guess is what I'll hear. So I'll let him speak, and we'll talk about it. 407-916-5400, text to 23680. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
Download the iHeart Radio app and catch the Beyond Reason Radio podcast. Your safe space for conservative thought, not for political correctness. Yaffee is back right now.
Yes, welcome back to the show, everyone. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We've been on since 8 p.m. tonight. If you missed any of the show, you can catch the podcast anywhere podcasts are available, on iHeartRadio app, on Stitcher, on Spreaker, on the TuneIn Radio app, on the Beyond Reason Radio app, anywhere. You can also get it on Facebook Live as well. So we had a caller earlier, Eddie from Claremont. Black man, said, served in the Air Force.
Marines.
Or the Marines, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Did I say the Air Force?
Yeah.
The U.S. Marines. We had an honest conversation a little bit about race and how we move past it in this country. And it was kind of interesting that he called because what he said is actually very similar to what I want to play now, because I keep asking, how do we move past this? I don't know if we can. It's going to take more time, I guess, basically. Demographics are going to dictate a lot of it because the fact is we're becoming more and more diverse, so we're going to have to deal with it. And as we become more and more diverse, we're just going to have to accept it. That being said, I found this audio from Morgan Freeman from a couple years ago now. He was on Don Lemon's show once, and he was on 60 Minutes another time, and he was asked about this. And I think he gave some very honest answers. Took a lot of guts, frankly. And I thought I would play it and see what you think. I think I've played it on the show maybe before, months or years ago. But I thought it was perfect for what's going on in the world today, because it just makes a lot of sense. Because really the answer is what Dr. Luther King said, becoming a colorblind society, focusing on the individual instead of this identity politics. And that means every individual has to look at each other as individuals. So he was asked about this on the Don Lemon show, and here's the audio. This is what he said.
So can I go back to, because I thought what you said was fascinating, because you called it bull when you said people can't, pull themselves up. Do you think that race plays a part in wealth distribution, or either a mindset that you can't
today?
Or cannot? Yeah.
No.
You don't?
No, I don't. You and I, we're proof. Why would race have anything to do with it? Put your mind to what you want to do and go for that. It's kind of like religion to me. It's a good excuse for not getting there.
Yeah. I said, and it's probably get me in trouble, but I said to some of my colleagues recently, so I know that it's an issue, but it seems like every single day on television I'm talking about race, and it's because of the news cycle, it's in the news, but sometimes I get so tired of talking about it, I want to just go, this is over, can we move on?
And if you talk about it, it exists.
Right.
Yeah. It's not like it exists and we refuse to talk about it, but making it a bigger issue than it needs to be is the problem we have.
Some bold statements there. For one, he was asked, do you think racism plays a part in economic inequality? All that, and he said today, no. So I think it's a good excuse, but there's so much proof that it doesn't. We just have to get out of the mindset that it does. That's what Eddie was talking about earlier. There's just too many that have the mindset, the perception that it does, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, basically, is what he's saying. And then he talks about, the other thing is we've made it a bigger deal than it is. We moved so far past it. There was a video that went out recently by Procter & Gamble. I don't know if you saw it. I probably should have grabbed the audio. But it was it was talking about the talk. And it went over history of young black boys and girls having to talk to their parents about, somebody said this racist thing about me. So they had a part of it was in the 50s, and a young girl said, oh, this guy said I look good for a black girl. And she said, you look good for any girl. Don't believe that. Mm-hmm. And then there was another, it went forward to the 70s, and it, they wouldn't let her play baseball with the white kids, or they said it wasn't as good or something. And then it went forward, and then it went all the way forward to today. And there was a young black girl in a Mercedes, and the mom was teaching her how to drive. Mm-hmm. And she says, now we need to have the talk about if you get pulled over. Mm-hmm. And she goes, what? I'm a good driver. Nothing would happen. And the mom was like, no, this could mean you don't come home if you get pulled over. And it kind of put that whole perception that because she's a black girl, if she gets pulled over, there's a good chance she could be killed or arrested just because she's black. And that was in today's world. And the girl didn't even understand. The girl's like, what? I'm a good driver. That should show a lot that, we've moved past a lot of racism in this country. And the fact is that a suburban black girl in a Mercedes getting pulled over, they're not getting killed, okay? In fact, all these high-profile cases, if you want to believe the Black Lives Matter movement, they've been of young black men. And mostly in in bad neighborhoods. Not all of them, but, you know, the idea. But the biggest problem I had with that, I understand that a lot of that was true, that in the past, and there's been problems in this country of racism, that these parents have had to have these talks about race with their kids. I understand all that. The problem I had with it is it gave the impression like we've made no progress. The video gave the impression like it's just as bad today as it was 50, 60 years ago. And that's what bothered me. Not so much that there wasn't truth in it, but that, oh, well, it's just as bad. This racism still exists just like it did. I mean, it gave that impression. And it's just not true. Does anyone really believe that? I certainly have not treated blacks that way. I don't know how, none of my friends treat blacks that way. None of my family treats blacks that way. I didn't grow up in a world where we treated blacks like that. And yet I'm told it's just the same as it was in the 50s or whatever. No. And that's what I'm saying. We have to have an honest conversation. Another one of these things we're not being honest. So Morgan Freeman makes that point there. He says, today, no. Maybe in the past, of course, but today, no. Racism isn't what it used to be. And then he makes the point in 60 Minutes. He was asked about Black History Month and asked about racism here. And this is what he said.
Black History Month you find
ridiculous.
Why?
You're going to relegate my history to a month?
Oh, come on.
What do you do with yours? Which month is White History Month? Well, come on, tell me.
Well, I'm Jewish.
Okay, which month is Jewish History Month?
There isn't one.
Oh, why not?
Yeah.
Do you want one?
No.
I don't either. I don't want a Black History Month. Black history is American history.
How are we going to get rid of racism?
Stop talking about it. I'm going to stop calling you a white man.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man. I know you as Mike Wallace. You know me as Morgan Freeman.
So he says there, he goes, I mean, this is gutsy stuff. If I came out and said that in an interview like that, I'm not allowed to say that. But he comes out and he says, what about Black History Month? Do you want it? No. Why would I want Black History Month? It's American history. You don't get a White History Month or a Jewish History Month. Why do I get a Black History Month? Oh, well, it helps stop racism. How do we stop racism? He says, stop talking about it. And his point is that relegating a month to them, it just increases the divide. Instead of looking at each other as individual Americans and blacks as a part of American history, because they are, it separates them again. And he says, well, how do we move past it? Stop talking about it. Stop acting like it's still there. You look at me as Morgan Freeman. I look at you as Mike Wallace. What is so difficult about that? That is the American dream. That is what America was founded on, individual liberty. Yet we can't seem to get past that. We can't seem to get to that point. So, bold statements. I know some people probably wouldn't like it. I think Eddie from Claremont would like it, though, if he's still listening. 407-916-5400. Text to 23680. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
If you like Beyond Reason Radio, well, make sure to show it by liking the Facebook page at facebook.com/Beyond Reason Radio. Your voice of truth in a world of fake news. Beyond Reason Radio continues right now.
Yeah, so I am going to end the show with things that made Yaffee laughy. We'll get to that in a sec. Don't worry. I have a great story, actually. Has cats in it. So if it has cats in it, it's got to be good. I just want to give my take real quick on the Confederate statues thing, on whether we should take them down or not, the Confederate monuments, because I haven't really had a chance to talk about that too much. I guess I have in past shows, maybe. I understand where the other side comes from in a lot of cases, because I'm not a fan of the Confederacy. In fact, Lincoln, I've read a lot about Lincoln, and I just admire him so much. I admire what he did. I admire the Union. I admire, Lincoln defeating them, honestly. He's one of my favorite presidents. And I definitely am one of these people, after everything I've read, that says the Confederacy was mostly about protecting slavery. Just read their documents. That's all you have to do. It's all over it. That being said, the main reason I'm uncomfortable with removing these monuments, and this, I know a lot of people have said this, but I do feel like it's sort of removing history. And I'm just someone who loves history. And what I mean by that is it kind of, and I know they're saying, oh, we're going to move them to a cemetery or something from public places so taxpayers don't pay for them. I guess. I mean, most people didn't care about them before. Maybe we could keep them there and put a plaque that kind of educates them on it's all about or something, so you can use it as an education opportunity. But it just kind of rings to me like book burning. You know what I mean? It just kind of has that feel to it. And I just don't like that. It's this, I think the people that really want to remove it just are offended by its existence and don't want to see it. And I just don't like the idea of totally removing something from society because it offends you. I'm just not. It's a mob mentality, in my opinion. And we've seen the mob and what they did in destroying that statue in North Carolina. It's this mob mentality. And it reminds me of, places in Europe before World War II that they would get in these groups and they would burn books that had stuff that they disagreed with. And they had crowds do it. Yay, we're getting rid of this in our society. And that's so troublesome to me. There's a lot of books I disagree with, but I wouldn't want to go burn them all. There's an importance to having that there. You learn from it. It is a part of our history. And I understand that we don't want to praise the Confederacy and put them up in this ideal situation. But I don't think any of those monuments or statues really do that today. Except now these radical groups are trying to make them do that now, but I don't feel like they were. They were just a part of the history of that town. And yes, it's a negative history, but I think it's important to have that to a certain extent. And I always go back to the idea, could you imagine going through Rome and Italy and just taking down the Colosseum and taking down all the statues from the Roman Empire because it offends you? That's awful. Wanting to destroy such important history that we can learn from it. And so that was my take on that. All right, let's end the show with something that made Yaffee laughy. So apparently, members of Parliament in Britain, they have a problem in the Parliament building. Rats or mice. They have mice. In fact, they had an issue where they asked for something else because a mouse infestation swept Parliament and taxpayers were left to foot the bill of a record £130,000 for their pest control bill to try to get rid of all these mice. So they have a brilliant solution.
Okay.
Cats. So, this is according to the UK Telegraph. It says, give us a cat. MPs plead for a mouser as Parliament's pest control bill hits a record £130,000. That's right, they're asking for a cat. And in fact, there was one member of Parliament who tweeted out a picture of a cat in her office and said, a great believer in credible deterrence. I'm applying the principle to the lower ministerial corridor mouse problem. So members of Parliament have complained about the mouse problem. One member said, my biggest worry is that it was only the bongs of Bing Ben that was scaring the mice off to any extent at all, anyways, on cats. Actually, what? I don't. My biggest worry is that it was only the bongs of Big Ben that was scaring the mice off to any extent at all.
And Big Ben has now been silenced for 4 years of renovations.
Oh, anyway, on cats, if number 10 and the FCO can have one each, Parliament should have dozens. And one person previously said, this is so unfair. When does Parliament get its own cats? We got loads of mice and some rats after all. So it turns out that working in Parliament, you might... Can you imagine running through the Parliament building and seeing a bunch of cats? Running around.
Mice are one thing, but have you seen how big some rats can be?
Yeah.
Huge. And I also heard this week, there's you know what the population of rats to people in New York City is? 8 to 1.
8 rats to one person?
That's right. And there's 8 million people in New York City?
Dear God.
Yes.
I hope they're not organizing and planning to take over or something.
Or Democrats and vote.
They're going to become a constituency.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's ugh. That makes me never want to live there now.
Isn't that something? That's scary.
Rats are kind of gross. I remember I was in a friend's house when I was younger, and he had a pet chihuahua. And we see this thing crawling around his kitchen. And it was so big, we thought it was the chihuahua. When we took a second look, it was a rat. It was a big, fat, nasty rat.
Oh, man.
Oh, it was so gross, and it was huge. Oh. My cat better, if there was ever a rat, my cat better take care of it. I will be so disappointed.
No food for you tonight.
Anytime there's a bug and he doesn't kill it, I'm like, you're not doing your job, cat. Yeah. You see that bug over there? Why is it not dead? You're not doing your job. But apparently, I just think it's funny. Apparently, they've actually brought this up a number of times where a lot of people in Parliament are saying, get us a cat and put them in the Parliament building to kill all the mice and the rats. I just want to see them as they're debating in Parliament, see a bunch of cats running around too. Or they're holding a cat while they're debating. There you go. I want to see that. All right. I thank you all for listening today. If you missed any of the show, make sure to check out the podcast anywhere that podcasts are available. And, I will not be on tomorrow night, but I will be hosting the morning show Friday morning. So you'll definitely want to check it out, and I'll catch you guys then.
That nothing